Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals podcast. My name is Dawn. So glad you're joining in today. Wonderful guest of mine, Bobbi Gregory. So happy to have you on today. We're going to be speaking about journaling, and let's take it a step further. The title of this episode specifically is Manifesting Meets Mindfulness. It's what happens when you write with intention. So I know journaling is a big buzzword in our society. Journaling happens through therapy. Journaling happens through Christianity. Journaling happens through our connection with other people. And it's been referred to on many different platforms as being a super duper helper. But I think a lot of times people have a struggle with, what does it really look like in my life? How can I make it fit? What is it really doing for me? Like, really, I'm going to write my feelings out and that's going to help me feel better. I think there's a lot of skepticism around it. And I think probably people put false expectations about what that might look like. But my guest today is a stillness advocate. She's a coach, like specifically that helps in the community, specifically with women and empowering them to dive into finding their deeper purpose through the art of journaling and being still. So more than that, Bobbi has a podcast called Be Still with Bobbi. Please check that out. And also, this is how I got to know you. I take part every week in her thing called the Be Still Collective. And this is a group of women that come together. We do a Zoom call every week from 9 to 10 on a Tuesday morning Central Time. And, that may change, shift, whatever it is, depending upon the seasons. But she always records it. So if you're not able to be on it, you get the recording, and it's basically seeing wonderful faces, connecting with women, and doing journaling prompts and discussing them as you go over the course of an hour. And I'm just going to tell you, Bobbi, it has been such a gift for me in reconnecting to my day, reconnecting from my week. It truly has. And the prompts that we do in an hour, like, I think sometimes when I would be told in therapy, hey, journaling would help you, I would not do it, because I think if I can't devote an hour or more or really sit down and have, stillness and darkness and candles and the whole thing with no sound around me, it's not really going to work. But on the contrary, it works. And Bobbi gives us really beautiful prompts and really great information about how it can work in your world. And I think that's the thing. It's dealing with all of us women that feel overwhelmed by life, and how to reflect and slow down and find that purpose that we are driven towards as women. And then you just released a book called She Got Still. I'm very excited about that. So
Yes.
I've just totally dominated the conversation for the first 2 minutes here. So let's go.
This
Bobbi
is your
Gregory.
show.
No.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here, sincerely. It's been such a joy to have you in the collective. It's just been such a great addition to our little community. So I'm
Well,
glad to be
I
here.
I thank you. I appreciate you putting it out there. I think it's such a genuine thing that we became friends through a mutual friend. I call
Mhm.
Julie, our mutual friend, I call her a chain link. Like,
She
you know,
is.
you have those friends that are just, they
Yeah.
connect you, right?
Yep. Yeah. They are the connecting points. And she
Love,
is
love,
one of them for sure. Yeah.
totally, totally.
Mhm.
So, Bobbi, tell me a little bit about how you personally found journaling for you. What's that moment or that season when it actually found you and you were like, ding, light bulb moment, like, this hits. This is something very specific for me that's valuable, and this is why.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's sort of evolved over time. I've always written since I was little. I wrote stories. You know, in high school, I had a diary that I would die if anybody ever read it because it's all my teen angst on the page. It started with that, just trying to get the feelings out. Then, in my adult life, I didn't really write at all. I had various writing assignments, right, for work and things like that, but not personally. And then after I had kids, I was sort of in this season of now what?
Mhm.
And so when I had a pocket of time, every once in a while, I'd sit down at my computer. I wasn't even handwriting and just jot down what I was feeling and thinking. But it wasn't really until 2017 where I had come to this place. My kids were a little bit older, but they were still pretty little. I think like kindergarten and second grade.
Yeah.
And we'd had major moves. I had had a major sickness, so I'd been hospitalized, and it was just kind of, I was on the other side of that. Life felt like a lot.
Mm,
Marriage was hard. Kids, parenting was hard. I had little kids, and sort of felt like I was navigating everything alone.
mm,
And it just felt overwhelming,
mhm.
and I felt a little lost. And so I just sat down with a notebook one day and I was like, I just need to get out every single thing that I'm feeling just to see if I can release it. And I felt relief.
Oh,
And
were you
after
surprised
that,
by that?
yeah, I was. I didn't expect the immediate relief. I
Mhm.
just thought, I just gotta get all this out so that I can stop crying at my kitchen table and, like,
Yeah.
just, like, have a place to put these thoughts because I didn't really have anyone to talk to, and I have lots of friends here in our community, but it's not something where you can sit down with somebody for coffee for an hour and be like, "Let me unload all these really heavy things I've been feeling,"
Mm,
because
thank you
we're
for
not
saying
equipped to
that.
know how to deal with that.
Totally. I have had relationships in my, female friendships that I have basically vomited information out at, and it's ruined the relationships. And
Yeah.
it's because I did not have that self-awareness of, "Okay, where can I put this stuff? How can people receive it?" Maybe it's something I need to be processing and then using that community as a support after I've gotten the initial layer, the initial
Mhm.
dust off the top of the layer.
Yeah, and I think there's therapy, which I'm a huge believer in therapy, um, but you kind of wanna bring the therapist with you into your real life, which you can't do. So this sort of serves as the bridge so that you're not, maybe you have a best friend or your spouse or someone that you can talk to on a regular basis. But for me, the journal became that place,
Mm,
like
love
the
it.
sacred container where I could put all the really honest thoughts that I had been thinking and feeling, and they could live there. And I didn't have to burden anyone else with them. They just lived
Mhm.
there in my notebook.
Gosh, I love that. I love what you said about, I mean, you're so honest. Life is a lot. I mean, at any
Mhm.
given point in time, life is a lot for us.
Yeah.
And feeling like you're navigating it alone, I just think what is one of the foundational things, that you can do, which and I love what you said that it's the bridge between, you can't tuck your therapist in your pocket and take him into your world with you, like, and say
Yep.
you have an argument with somebody in your life, and all of a sudden your therapist pops up on your shoulder and says, "Okay, say this."
I know. That would be nice.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah,
Yes.
love that, totally. But it's a really great bridge to help us kinda get that initial information out, and I think too, as I've gone through my journaling practice within therapy and lessened the expectations, because that's the biggest thing journaling has the inhibition has been that if I don't have the time to sit and just do it in this way that I feel like it should look, which is the
Yeah.
expectation, then I don't do it. So once I work past that and I'm like, okay, if I can free writing has been so wonderful for me.
Mhm.
You can free write and it doesn't matter what the grammar looks like. It doesn't matter if it even flows. It just gets that stuff out like you're talking about. Getting that stuff out, it's without carrying that heaviness that we exist in a lot of times depending upon what we're going through, you know?
Yeah. That's key because we
Mm,
go through so many things each and every day, ups and downs and sideways, and your day gets thrown off, and that's life. But unless you have a place to take all those thoughts that are swimming around in your head and getting them out, you kind of can't clear room for new mental thoughts and capacity,
mhm.
right? And so
Yeah.
this kind of serves as that place where you can just be brutally honest because there might not be someone in your life that you can be brutally honest with
Gosh, that's great.
in that way that they don't then turn around and try to fix or solve or give you advice, right? This isn't about that. It's just about getting the thoughts down.
Gosh, Bobby, that's so poignant
Mm,
because I think as a society, if you're a helper kind of person, like if you were to share some of the information you talked about with a friend that loves you dearly, yeah, I didn't think about that. They automatically go into that fix it mode. What can I do to help it? And then it's not really on them to help
yeah,
necessarily. It's on them to be witness to and to be beside you, but like them doing your work is not, that's burdening them. And then that's creating a situation in your relationship that then you have to process through and try to fix. So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. When journaling really became a thing for you personally, tell me when you stepped into journaling being something that I'm going to take this a step further and I'm going to share this with other people.
Oh, that's interesting. So, when I first started like truly journaling in 2017, I made it a priority. And kind of like you said, I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. So if I'm going to do it, I want to do it well and I want to do it right and there has to be structure and there has to be, the right kind of pen. I mean, it's just the type A person in me, right? But
Right.
I was too overwhelmed in that place to make it perfect. So it was really messy in the beginning. And I
Mm,
think the piece that I realized was working was the consistency. It didn't matter what it looked like, it only mattered that I kept showing up. And
mm,
so I I kept going back to my journal because it kept giving me what I needed for the day, for that hour, and I felt myself being more calm, more at peace. I didn't have any more answers than I started with, but it at least was helping me feel my way through the day in a more calm, deliberate, intentional way, right? I felt myself being calmer and more patient with my kids. And
mm,
I felt myself not, um, I don't know, being so defensive or wondering and worrying about every little thing that happened
mhm.
because I'd kind of already processed through it.
Yes.
And then, I brought prayer into the mix. And to your point of when I started to bring this to other people, it just sort of felt like if there was one gift I could give anyone, if I got to choose who I would serve, it would be the women who felt like I did at the beginning of this journey.
Wow.
Because the overwhelm, the worry, the anxiety, that's all part of life. But having an actual way to cope that doesn't require money, it doesn't
Yeah.
require tons and tons of time. It's just there to serve as like a lifeline. That's the thing. And I remember being on the phone with a friend of mine. I had an interior design business and I'd been doing that for about 5 years and I was trying to determine, was I going to continue doing interior design or was I going to step back from that and see what else I could do? And he asked me, if there was one thing that you could teach people, what would it be? And I didn't even hesitate. It was this. And I
Wow.
thought, it's journaling. It has to be journaling. This is the thing. This is what it just became my daily guide
Mhm.
that it was a no-brainer to say, this is what I want to teach people.
Yeah. And then you made that step. You made that huge
Mhm.
leap from one thing to another.
Yeah.
How hard was that to do? Or was it easy based on what
Well,
you just said?
it's progressive. I think that's what's interesting.
Yeah.
I think I think we as a society sort of have this vision that when we set a goal or we really want something, we kind of take off in a sprint, like
Mhm.
trying to reach the finish line. And
Mm.
then the finish line in our heads is this magical place where everything has happened and it's all come true. And what I've realized in this is that I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to start a business. And then voila, I had a business around journaling. It was a very long process. And I actually started writing a book about it back in 2020 and
Okay.
then wound up having to shelve that idea. And then from that came the idea for the business. And out of that came the idea for the community. So it was very slow, deliberate baby steps. So, in that regard, it did not feel scary.
Okay. So it was happening, it was unfolding for you in a way that was manageable and kind of digestible for everything that was going on and what you were doing.
Yes,
And you were
and
still
don't get
doing
me
it right.
wrong, I mean, I'm like everyone else where I'm like, "Okay, well, why hasn't it happened yet? And why isn't this coming together? And why don't I have" right? It's like when we have the idea, we want it to happen tomorrow,
Yeah.
and what I've learned is that it doesn't it rarely ever works that way, right? You
Right.
rarely ever win the lottery when it comes to your goals.
Mhm.
You actually just have to walk them out one day at a time. And
Mm.
it's such a beautiful process when you do it that way if you allow it to be.
That's the thing, it's the surrender, and yeah, we've been talking about that a lot in our
Mhm.
home recently actually, is the
Yes.
surrender, and what the surrender looks like for us as women that are A-type personalities, that are
Mhm.
very also have this confinement of expectations around what this goal should look like. I love that you talked about that because it's so real, it's so true. When we are goal-oriented individuals and we feel like, "That's it. Okay, this is where I need to go." My personally experience has been
Mhm.
that I tend to go tunnel vision on that, and I'm like, I'm going to drive that bus straight down that highway at any speed, at any cost, without, without fail. But what I've learned along the way, and what the journaling process for me in the Be Still Collective that I'm taking part in with you, is that the surrender is just as important as the goal and the driving of the bus. Like, I think, was it last week that you said, um, God wants us, we do the what, God does the how.
That's absolutely true. Yep. Yeah,
That
our
is so.
job is the what. That's our only job.
Mhm.
And if we're asking for a big enough what, we cannot possibly figure out the how.
Wow, that's right. Yeah. Another thing we've been talking about too, and I love the idea of manifesting because I want to kind of bring that
Mhm.
into the conversation because, the word manifest has so many different connotations to it depending upon which social media account you're on and listening to,
Yes,
right?
so
You
true.
got to find what works for you, but I
Yeah.
feel like if you're grounded in a realistic thought form without being bogged down into criticalness or expectations, it can lighten up the space for you to allow manifestations to come into your world. But
Mhm.
it's a delicate balance between doing the work and then allowing the surrender to happen. And
Yep.
I mean, maybe that's just a part of growing. Maybe that's just a part of evolving through our lives and through our experiences. But man, I mean, like, if I would have known the stuff that I know now at my age, at 50 plus, like back when I was 30, gosh, where would I be now? But like,
Yeah.
how do you address that? How do you go, if only I would have known about this journaling when I was 25 in the thick of all these things and life was really life in. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what would have it been different? And how do we not beat ourselves up for the things that we did that we know now that we didn't know then? And I guess it's just around expectations, basically. I guess maybe
Mhm.
what I'm talking about and the manifestation process.
Yeah, I think we all have expectations, right? And we all have ideas of how we want it to go. I think the surrender piece is both hard and the most beautiful piece because it's the hardest to let go and believe that if it's meant to be, it will be.
Mhm.
But the beauty is in watching the magic that happens and sitting back in awe and wonder of what God can do on our behalf that we couldn't possibly do, right? I always look at it like God's imagination is way bigger than ours could ever be, right? And
Right.
He already knows what the big picture is. And so He's piecing together things behind the scenes that we could never even possibly dream up,
Mhm.
even if we sat and thought about it for a week, right? And the letting go piece is knowing I'm going to do my part. I'm going to let you do your part.
Mhm.
You just tell me what my part is, right? And then
Yes.
you take that next step.
Yeah. We've talked about that extensively too. It's like
Mhm.
your feet hit the ground in the morning. What is it that comes into your brain? Like that connection of like, what is my to-do list today? Because we all have our to-do lists depending upon your role in your household. It's groceries, it's pickup, it's drop off, it's laundry,
Yep.
it's job deadline, it's all the different things. But if we take that to the next step in terms of what it is that our goals are for our life in general, we really have to step in and say, God, what is your to-do list for me? Like, that's such a powerful thing for me to say. And then I got to be okay with what I hear.
Yeah, that's it. That's part of the surrender.
Oh,
And here's the really cool thing that I've learned too. We have lists. I've seen your list. It's massive,
it's a lot,
girl.
Bobby.
I'm like,
Oh my God,
oh,
I shared that with you guys one week, and I was like, I got off the call, and I was like, what did I just do?
I
I
know.
out myself like massively.
Wow. So I don't envy that. But we have to do lists. God gives us a to do, right? And He won't give us the next thing to do until we've done the thing he's given us to do. And I
Mm,
think that's the part where he'll just let us repeat the day again and again if we haven't done the thing. And you're right. Sometimes it is the thing that we don't think is either necessary or doesn't make any sense. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have said at the end of a journaling session, and it's my favorite question to ask, God, what is it that you have for me today?
mhm.
It's that one question. And his answers, I feel like, vary so greatly. Sometimes if I'm working on a project, it will make sense, like write the next chapter, right?
Yeah.
Clear. Other times it'll be things like take a nap, call
Yeah.
your mom. I'm like, but how does
But
that move the needle?
yeah.
And that's the thing about surrender is if God's working on the how and our job is the what, we have to trust that take a nap means he knows we need rest and
Mm,
he's got everything else while we're resting.
yeah. Gosh. Gosh, those tidbits are so strong. They're so big, and they're so integral in the whole process of surrender. So, I mean, what I hear you saying is that there's a huge faith and spirituality element within your journaling. But
Yep.
I also know from being in your calls every week that there's also a very grounded realness about life that mimics or echoes and walks beside that faith aspect. So I appreciate that. I think for me as a woman with a lot going on and a lot of goals and or things that I'm oriented towards working towards, being able to straddle that fence, if you will, and go, all right,
Mhm.
this is the strength and this is the strength side. This is my what. This is the digging in and how am I going to do that? And I have the support of the other ladies to be able to go, yeah, you're doing a great job. And have you thought of this? So we're in that density, but
Yep.
then being able to put the other side of the fence with that faith side and having that faith, because all I hear you saying is that we have got like it's having faith. It's the
Mhm.
bottom line is faith. When we
Yeah.
things that we do not understand, things that we do not see. And that is a, test as old as time right there, right?
Well, and some of the things I feel like we've talked about in the collective, it's hard. It's one thing to say you have faith. I think um, faith means, what you just said,
Mhm.
believing in something we can't see. That sounds good for other people, right? It's like, I believe God is faithful for you and you and you. And then suddenly, when the spotlight is turned back on us, it's like, well, I'm not so sure. Right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I believe that for everyone else. But then suddenly, when it's my turn to believe that God is going to come through for me, that's a
Mhm.
harder sell
Yeah.
because we've been taught to be self sufficient, to act on behalf of everyone else, to make sure everybody else in our lives has what they need. And then eventually we'll get back to doing what we think we want to be doing. Right?
Yeah. It just sounds like we are deviating away from that road that God's wanting us to drive.
Hmm.
That's the information and the map that he's giving us. And it's
Yeah.
really having to listen and do that. So talk to me a little bit more about the journaling process, because why is writing so powerful in terms of where all of this kind of comes together, the surrender, the faith, but yet the groundedness in our goals and being able to bring all of it together? Because what I've heard you saying is it's, one of the most fundamental things for you and how you found it was when you were in such a place where it's just like, I have to unload. So that's step one. But then what
Yep.
do we do with step two with our journaling process, where we go, okay, how is this powerful for me? What does this mean to me? Once I got it all out, now what do I do?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. And I feel like, um, so for me, it used to be that journaling was journaling and prayer was prayer. They were two separate
Mhm.
things. The end of the day, before I went to bed, I'd check in with God, thank Him for everything I was grateful for, you know, ask Him to help me remember to pick up my dry cleaning the next day, right? Like sound sleep and help the kids and the journaling piece was just the brain dump that I feel this way about this thing that just happened. What am I going to do about this? The worry about, are my kids going to be okay? And, whatever is happening in your life. But once I really got into journaling on a consistent basis,
Mhm.
the journaling became the conversation. So prayer and journaling were no longer two separate things. When I sit down with my journal in the morning, it is me talking to God. And I literally write as if he was sitting right next to me. I invite him in the morning. The very first line in every day of my journal is, "Good morning, God." Like, just I invite him in. This is part of the conversation. And
Yeah.
I'll randomly just start rambling. "Good morning, God. It's Thursday. Yesterday was long. I cried twice." Right? Like, here's what
Yeah.
was going on. And the dog threw up on the carpet. And then I couldn't get my, whatever. The car was broken again. Or I
Mhm.
just sort of download, here's what's happening. Here's what's happening in my life. And I know he knows, right? It's not like I'm giving him new information,
Right.
but it's allowing me the opportunity to talk to him like he's right there next to me and he's listening.
Yes.
I sort of think of him like the grandparent who has exponential amounts of time and energy to devote just to me. And
Mm.
so when I sit with him, I know he's not trying to hustle off to a meeting. He's not trying to get me to wrap it up so he can go sit with the next person. It's just he and I, and he'll sit there for as long as I want to. And so sometimes my journal entries are a paragraph if I don't have time. And sometimes they're 6 pages if I have a lot
Mhm.
to say.
Yeah.
But it's that intersection between prayer and journaling that really makes it something special, I think.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I've heard people talk about where prayer meets their activity and
Mhm.
how the two things have melded together. So it sounds to me like journaling has become your process of prayer
Yep.
almost.
Yeah.
And very, very divine, very sacred time. And I like I've had a friend that was a huge runner, and she was like, I go running for 5 miles with no headphones, without my phone. Like my family knows where I'm going. So everybody can, they can track me. I put a little thing in my shoe. So if something happens, we're all good. An
Yeah.
emergency. But I'm going to be still with my movement and be very intentional. And that's my time where she says the word download as well. And I love that. It's like
Mhm.
I get my downloads at that
Yep.
point. That's when I converse with God in the situation and the life circumstance that I'm in. Like running movement for me really connects. The journaling I like because what you're talking about is that brain dump, that initial clean out. And I think once we take the top layer off of the dust bunnies in the house that's been sitting still and kind of old for a while and a little bit stale,
Yep.
and we really find that hardwood underneath it that can use some polishing, and then it's like, wow, now look what's been underneath here. Look what I can really dive into, and I can look what I've had all the time. Look what
Yeah.
I've had access to all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it can
And
be deeper work.
yeah, and when you bring God into the conversation, he's there to point things out that you maybe wouldn't have noticed, right? There are
Mhm.
times when I will, just be writing stream of consciousness and suddenly I'll just hear this little inkling that says, "Do you really believe that?" And I'm like, "Ooh, no. But that is what I've been taught to believe. Why did you call me out
Yeah.
on that?" Right? But you see things, like you said, you take the surface level off and you're just looking at what's underneath. That's the real, truest version of who you are.
Mm.
And that's the part that God already intimately knows.
Mhm.
But he's reflecting back to you the pieces that you probably need to see that you haven't paid attention to in a long time.
Gosh, that's so lovely, and it's so perfectly said, and it's so poignant for us as humans in
Yeah.
the worlds that we are navigating, the
Mhm.
frustrations we're navigating, the challenges we're navigating, um, all of the things. And let's face it, as a woman, as mothers, we
Yep.
are always in busy seasons of life. The seasons are they change, but
Yep.
they always have a lot to them. I don't care how old your children are, if they are newborn babies or if they are 22.
It's
There
so
is going
true.
it's different, but there's always this fullness. I wouldn't change any of those moments. I know you wouldn't either.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about when life gets so busy. And here we are stating the journaling is something that we've committed to and being consistent with it. But like, I know you personally have said there's been times where you're standing at the sink, like loading dishes, and you've got your journal sitting there beside you, and you like, this is all the time that I have because my kids have this, my kids have that. I have this business situation I have to take care of. I have all these different things I'm balancing, but I know how incredibly important this is for me. And even if it's a paragraph, I love that you said that. Six
Mhm.
pages or a paragraph, it doesn't matter. But you've done it in the middle of, doing dishes and doing laundry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what's so great. You can leave it out on the counter, you can leave it out where you can see it to remind you that it's there. No different than, I mean, I don't know if you use, like, the Voxer app. If you pick up Voxer or Marco Polo and you send a quick note to a girlfriend, you're like, "Oh my gosh, the funniest thing just happened," right? It takes 25 seconds to send a note. That's
Yeah.
all it is. Capture the thought as it's happening. You can come back to it later when you have more time. But
Mhm.
again, it's the consistency, because not for the activity, it's not like homework, right? It is
Oh, yes.
you capturing what's happening for you in real time, because later, and this is one of the things I do every year, we're almost to the end of 2025. And at the end of every year, I get out all of my journals and I will read from January 1 all the way through to the end of the year, because I miss some of the things that I had forgotten I wrote, forgotten I felt, forgotten had happened. And it gives your life a deeper level of meaning because you can see it on the paper. You can see how one day you felt awful and how the next day something that showed up that you weren't expecting, and it changed how you felt about yourself or what was happening or the events. Um,
I
so
just got
it's
chills. That's perfect, and it's perspective. That
yes, it's
perspective.
reflection in the moment and it's perspective later on.
Yeah, totally, totally. Let's talk a little bit about how you guide people through that process, because I love the Be Still Collective that we do every week, and I love you hold space so wonderfully. You hold the container so beautifully for the ladies in the group, and I
Mm,
just wanna say I appreciate that.
thank you.
How is that just and yet, like, bottom line, that's your calling. I mean, I get
Mm,
it, I see that, and, like, it's one of those things where we step into our calling, but you probably had to journal about it to kinda get to that bottom line of, "This is my calling," right?
yeah, I did. I actually sat on creating a group for over a year.
Mm.
I thought about it, I journaled about it, I prayed about it, I talked about it. I mean, I made lists about it. I like everything I could possibly do to avoid actually creating the group, I did it. I just thought,
Oh,
no one's gonna come. What am I gonna say when they get there? You know, what if we all just sit around and stare at each other and no one really has anything to say and no one wants to be honest and no one wants to open up? I mean, it's like anything else that's important to you. The first time you attempt it, all the negative voices come to the party and they tell you all the reasons why it's never going to work. Um and I kept returning to my journal and saying, "Okay, God, well maybe it's not that. Maybe I just need to keep doing the podcast, or maybe I just need to, write this or write that." And I feel like he just kept saying, "Or you could start your group." I'm like,
the
"Are you
collect
sure?"
really? Really?
Yeah,
Because 'Cause I'm thinking, not so much." But
right.
no, it's so beautiful, and the guiding stuff, like, you give us prompts through the week or through
Mhm.
the call rather,
Yep.
and I know you work on that stuff through the week prior to the actual call, but the guiding of it is so delicate, but so honest, and I think that's what
Mhm.
I love most about it. I function really well, I have found since being on your call, that I tend to work really well with prompts, and
Mhm.
there are so many different things that you can dive into prompt-wise. You can look it up online. You can join the group like the Be Still Collective, and you can kind of coerce with and commingle rather with other women that are in the same place. Because for me, I love connection. We're wired for it. And that relatability is something I feel like women really need in their lives. But there's so many other places that you can go into that kind of into that deal, the prompting deal. So
Mhm.
we work on prompts each week just because I think it kind of keeps it a little bit more clean and a little bit more directed. Tell me, how did that come to you? Because if you're doing stream of consciousness writing to start with and journaling
Yep.
and this free writing and just kind of unloading, And then you're going, I'm thinking about doing this, and for over a year, and you're like, God keeps coming back, yeah, you need to do this. I mean, let's talk about the idea of prompts and how that is helpful for people in the journaling process, and what you've seen along the way with people in that concept.
Yeah, I was reminded early on that the way that I journal is a practice that has been practiced and honed over the last really 2 decades. I mean, I really committed in 2017, but I have been working through this way of thinking and way of being for over 20 years.
Mhm.
And I realized that's not the way everybody's brain works.
Yeah.
And so I also know the type A part of my personality who loves school supplies and fill in the blank worksheets needs occasionally to have those prompts, right?
Yeah.
And so I think just I will get still from week to week and think about our last call and then figure out, okay, where do we want to go from here? I'll
Mhm.
journal about it, I'll think about it, I'll pray about it, and then I try to make it as simple as possible, as you know. Like, I don't wanna load you down with 25 different questions to answer. At most, I think we've done 10 in one sitting, but
At
that feels
most.
yeah,
Yeah. But they're
it feels
very
like
specific, and I feel like they follow a really nice directive, a really nice path. So
mhm,
one unwinds a bit of it, and then the next prompt unwinds that piece a little bit more, and then you take this piece a little bit more. In, the book that I just wrote, we have a week where we do bubble journaling, and it's kind
mm,
of one of those ideas of your concern, your fear, your frustration is here.
yeah,
So you write it in here, and then it's, if this, then, so we're cleaning out the container. Well, if this happens, then this might happen. But if this happens, then this, it's basically it's a whittling down to get
yeah,
to the base and to the root of what it is that we desire, if we're talking about manifesting,
yep.
or if we're talking about getting to the heart of our purpose. We really got to go through the layers. That's to me what I've seen in the prompts that you've presented for us.
Yeah, that's such good noticing. I do feel like there has been process, a framework, a blueprint that has come out of what I've learned over the years. And I am actually working on putting it into a digital course. There's 6 parts to the course, and it really you can use the blueprint for, just kind of lay it over any area of your life, whether it's your career, your marriage, your friendships, your adulthood, your parenting, your, whatever piece of your life feels out of alignment. We're really just trying to get to the heart of what's happening.
Mhm.
How do I feel about what's happening? What do I want to see happen if I don't like what's happening? And how do I enlist God's help in getting from this piece where I don't like what's happening to seeing something more ideal?
Mm.
And
Yep.
I mean, I've used that on everything. It sounds so silly, but finding a new car, figuring out what I want my kids' school to look like,
Mhm.
um, relationships, every piece of your life matters, right? But
Yes.
we rarely take the time to sit down and think through, well, do I actually like that part of my life?
It's a
Do
great
I
point.
want to keep living that part of my life in the way that I've been living it?
Yeah.
And if not, what would I rather have that part of my life look like? And so it's really kind of drilling down until we get to the most honest place. And that's the part where I feel like I think what I'm trying to do in the group week to week is get you to that honest place
Yeah.
because only from that honest place can you build what's next,
Mm.
right? It's like you can have the vision and you can come up with the what. But if the what, right, you're going to give God the how, but if the what comes from a place that's still up here on the surface and you haven't dug deep to figure out, is that what I actually want? Or is that what I think I should want
Oh, the
based
should
on
monster.
what I know or where I've been or how I grew up or what my friends think or what my spouse thinks I should do? You have to get to the really honest place and drill down. And from there, then you can start to ask the questions. Well, why do I want that? Why is that important to me? What would I want to see happen?
Mm. Yeah. And I will tell you, since we've been doing this work, my affirmations for the different goals that I've been oriented to for the remainder of 2025 and into this will be aired in 2026. But as these chunks of time that we're going through and the goals that I have shifted because
Mhm.
what we've done is go underneath. And I've realized, you know what? Yes, I do want that goal, but I don't want it to look like that. I'm
Yeah.
now going, I don't know what I want it to look like, but I know that this is it. What is my what? How do I drill down, like you said, to get to the foundation and the underside of what it all means for me? And I have found that a couple of the different goals that I've set have been tweaked, if you will, and been like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great idea, but I really haven't thought that through for what it looks like in my life. And
Yeah.
that's really appropriate for me. So that journaling process for me, that's how that's helped me in terms of seeking out the things that I am trying to create and manifest, bringing into my circle, bringing into my world, bringing into my household, bringing into my community and my relationships. Big time, big time.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think what you just said highlights a piece that we rarely talk about, and that's the permission piece, which is when you're actually journaling about these things, right? You give yourself permission to be honest, which means even if you've started down a path that you thought was going to be the path, you have the right to change your mind,
Yeah.
right? You can get to a certain point and think, oh my gosh, I thought this was going to be better than it is. And now I want to switch gears. And you can. But
Yeah.
again, we've been taught that, if you commit to something, you have to do it from now until the end of time, and that's just not the case. So I think it's beautiful that you've been able to see that in your own life, that you've been able to shift your focus or give yourself permission to do it differently.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's so
totally,
good.
because my DNA, if you will, is like I said earlier, it's like I'm gonna get behind that bus wheel and I'm like driving down that road and there is no looking to my peripheral. It is
Yep.
like, 5 in 5th gear, just straight forward without hesitation. And I think there's really good stuff about that. Like I'll tell my girls, there's really good things about the gifts of drive, the
Yep.
gifts of ambition, and the gifts that we have that push us to excel and to want to excel and want to be
Mhm.
that best version of ourselves, but at the expense of other things along the way. The relationships that we don't want to slow down and look at this avenue versus this avenue because
Mhm.
I may be missing it because I'm so laser focused on one specific thing. And you said it earlier, like the beauty of surrender, if we can really step into that, how much that can be such a wonderful part of our story in actually getting to our end goal,
Yeah.
and really finding that connection and finding that relatability and all the things that go along with it and just being in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting how being in this stillness, just being in the quiet and sort of emptying our minds
Mhm.
allows different types of thoughts to surface that are not readily available when you're just like blowing and going and doing all the things and checking off the task list. You don't have a lot of room in that kind of go, 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 do to let any kind of creativity or new thought or idea bubble up to the surface. So I feel like my best ideas come when I'm sitting with my journal in the quiet.
Yeah. That and hence be still. Let's go down that road. The being
Mhm.
still, that's such a big, big integral part of it. It's like you're just explaining. I've
Yep.
had that experience before I ever met you where it's just I was forced to like sit down. Whether
Mm.
it's through an
Yep.
injury, whether it's through a mental situation, whether it's through addressing trauma, it's a forcing to sit and just be with. Sit still, like calm down, bring all of the neurotransmitters into this, let's downshift into first gear.
Yeah.
And we have to, and then maybe let's put it in park and open the doors and take a little walk around this park that you're in, because there there's really there's beauty in the work that we have in front of us to do. And a lot of times we don't see the forest for the trees when we're going so fast, like you said, that go, go, go mentality. So tell me a little bit about how the be still, can you just elaborate on that a little bit more? How that collectively helps with the journaling and how the two really benefit one another. Maybe personal experience of your own that you had around that.
Yeah. I think, Something that you just said triggered, there's this, I think it's on the back actually of the book cover. It's, learning how to be still and learning how to be still, uh, or life will insist you do, right? Until life insists you do. And I think that's it. We run ourselves ragged until we can't run anymore, whether that's a health issue or, like you said, an injury. In my case, it was winding up in the hospital with 2 little kids and a lung issue that needed, it required massive surgery. And it was a year of recovery. And I think after that, that was in 2015. And after that, I could slowly sense that I was creeping back into the life of go, 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 do, 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 right? My
Mhm.
life insisted I slow down. I kind of promised God in the hospital bed, like, I'll do this differently. Just let me go home and be with my babies. And, but over the course of the next couple of years, it was like I was inching my way back into that depleted, doing everything for everyone else, never taking time to sit still. And I
Mhm.
was like, wait a second, I can't keep this pace. I already know what happens when I do.
Yeah.
And so the stillness is really where it started. Before I started taking my journaling seriously in 2016, I decided I was going to get up before anyone else was awake, before anyone else said my name. And I was already tired, right? Because I was going to bed so late and I had little kids and we had preschool and kindergarten and all the things. But um, I would just get up and make myself a cup of coffee and sit and look out the dining room window and watch everybody in the neighborhood go off to work in the dark. There was no other purpose in that but to be still.
Mm.
And from there, I just felt like the temperature in the room went down
Oh,
and the day felt different on the days that I did do it versus the days that I didn't.
right.
The stillness, we're afraid of stillness,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because we've been wired like, if you're not being productive, you're not worthy.
Oh, gosh. Preach,
But
girl.
yeah, but our worth doesn't come from what we do. It comes from who we are and how we show up in the world, right? If
Mhm.
I'm out in the world being exactly who God made me to be and serving others with the gifts that he gave me that only I can give, right? That's the best version of my life. It doesn't matter if I'm PTO president or if I made the best Pinterest styled birthday party, right?
Right.
That's great and that's fun. And those are like bonuses. But I have to feel okay with who I am and know exactly who that is and be operating from that truest version of myself in order to be the light that God designed me to be, to go out and serve the world in the way he wants me to serve. And that includes being the light in our own families, right?
Yes.
To our kids. When our kids see us in that calm, peaceful, present, lit up way, we are different parents. We are different mothers. My
Mhm.
girls know the difference between stressed out me and, peaceful me.
Right.
I laugh easier. Somebody spills something and it's not a big deal. It's just a different way of being, but it does start in that still place
Mm.
because, you know, it's like driving 100 miles down the highway. It's really hard to get your bearings.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love what you said about we are afraid of stillness. We're afraid of being quiet. We're afraid
Yes.
of being slow. We're afraid of being just just being, you
Yep.
know? I think for me, if I think about it personally, me running from being still for so long was in an effort not to address the things underneath that lower surface, right?
Yeah.
The things that were in my hardwood floors that had all the different layers on top of them, the carpet layers on top of them. Because I'm like, if
Yep.
I peel back this carpet layer, then there's just going to be something else that's nasty underneath there I have to clean up. So if
Yep.
I don't really go there and I just keep going and just put another layer over top of it, I'm going to be okay because I have fortitude, I have follow through, I have goals, I have ambition, I have all these wonderful gifts.
Yep.
But how are those gifts serving my community? This is what I hear you saying, like the gifts and the lit space that we come from, like that light that we are to our families and to
Yep.
our communities in general. Like, how do we find that if we are continually putting stuff on top of it and we're
Yeah.
not diving underneath it? So, yeah, afraid of being still because we don't know what's going to come up. And then I
Mhm.
think this is really cool where your journaling comes in, because when you get still and you allow those things to bubble up and you allow the messages and you allow yourself to hear what God's saying in that, in watching your neighbors go to work, in sitting and taking a sip of the most delightful coffee that you just made on that day,
Yep.
in no one else is awake in the house, including the dogs. You know, it's
Yes.
just you. And even if it's for 2 minutes, it's enough for us to go, all right, this is the way I can start my day. I can walk through my day in a spirit of calmness,
Yep.
but that's the beginning of then opening that box to be able to go, this is really what's underneath. And now I'm going to write about it. And now I'm going to get it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, being afraid of the stillness, I think one of the things that comes up often is it meditation? I've tried meditation, that doesn't work, right? It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's literally just almost like sitting next to a busy street and people watching, only you're just watching your own thoughts go by
Hmm.
and breathing,
Hmm.
right? Noticing what's around you, the smell of the coffee, the tick of the clock, whatever it is. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just allowing your mind and your heart space to breathe.
Hmm.
But the other piece, when you said like you're afraid to take off those layers, right? To get to what's inside, because then what? Then you're going to have to clean up the mess. And what
Oof.
I've learned is even in that, when you unearth what's under all the layers, God's not asking you to fix it. He's not. He's asking you to bring it to him
Hmm.
so that he can sit with you and tell you what to do next. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter if it's hurt or harm or trauma or something you said or years and years of neglecting yourself, whatever it is. It's like when I was talking about how God only gives me one task for that day, he's only going to give you one step out of that, whatever's underneath the surface, just one. And for that day, it might not be anything. It might be enough just to uncover what's in there.
Right. Right. Gosh, just allowing that to meet you where you are.
Yes.
It's allowing, and I love what you talk about permission. It all goes to me, it all goes back to giving yourself permission. It's all,
Yep.
gosh, it's just all of it fits together so beautifully. And let's talk about what all of this has really meant for you personally. Because obviously it's big stuff for you, because it's now a passion that you have, that you're doing and holding space for other women in this way. So tell me a little bit about what that journaling and that being still process has taken you from point A to point B, and maybe what that process has revealed to you about yourself, what you've learned about yourself, what you
Mm,
better understood about how you navigate through the world, your reactions versus your responses, those kind of things. Because what I hear you saying is the benefits are so grand to both the being still and the journaling and the unloading the information that we have so intricately wound into our DNA, depending upon our experiences, that there's gifts to it. So what are some of the things that you have learned about yourself over the years of this process?
mm. Gosh, that's a great question and a loaded question because I
I
feel
know.
like, do you have another hour?
There's
No,
a
I
lot.
think
That's the next podcast episode. We'll go.
you're right. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. In the beginning, when I first journaled as an adult, it just gave me a space to like say all the words I couldn't say to anybody else, right? The things that I would never admit out loud because I was too busy walking around telling everyone, "I'm fine. I'm
Mhm.
great. Everything's good." Um, so first and foremost, it just was the gift of being honest.
I love it. Yeah.
And beyond that, it allowed me a chance to get to know myself as a 40 some year old person. I'm about to turn 50 at the end of January. And I'm like, man, I have learned so much about who I am in the span of the last decade because I've been willing to sit with her and ask her questions
Yeah.
and ask her what she thinks and what she believes and what she wants and what she wants to do with her life in a much different way than I could have done if I were 20 or even 30.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say that stillness and journaling is an amazing practice to have on a daily basis. But if there are deeply rooted things, I cannot say enough good things about therapy,
Right.
trauma therapy. Like there are things that your cells might hang on to that you can't just release by writing some words on a page.
Correct.
So journaling isn't the magic pill, but what it does is allows you the time and the space to figure out what is it that I need, right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of a therapist would I like to see? I mean, I've even written about that, just being really clear. I think that's the other benefit is clarity. W-
Yes.
Looking at what I've written over time and saying, okay, a pattern has emerged. This is what I think. Here's a clear pattern that I see. This matters to me, or this is
Yeah.
important to me. I need to follow that thread to see where it leads. Um, and I think because I look at journaling and quiet time as a conversation with God, my trust in Him has grown exponentially. I always believed I was a person of faith. This has sort of put my feet to the fire.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, just I remember when I decided, okay, I have to get a divorce. I was kind of in this place where I'd been writing about my marriage and like, this is really hard. And is it supposed to
Mhm.
be this hard? And it just was sort of confusing. And I finally sat down and I pulled out my journal and I said, okay, God, you've seen me write about all of this. And now I need to know, do I
Mm.
have your permission to leave?
Wow.
And it was it was the most honest question I could ask.
Yeah.
Um, and the most beautiful answer came out of that, right? And then it was like, and I'm going to need you to trust me through this process.
Yeah.
So it gave me something to cling to come back to remember, oh, yeah, God's words are good. He's got a plan, even when I can't see it.
Mhm.
So it truly has become a lifeline for me. It is not just a task, it is a way of being.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't know that I could live my life without it.
Yeah. 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 It's become a pillar for you.
Yes.
And I love the guttural, honest answer of it's putting your feet to the fire where your faith is concerned
Yep.
and getting really honest about who you are, how you tick, how you move through the world. And I love the point that there's so much that we can carry that the journaling, like journaling, isn't a magic pill, but my goodness, it is a tool and a bridge and a chain link
Yeah.
throughout the work that we do through therapy, through counseling with grief counseling,
Yep.
through trauma therapy, through anything that you may be facing, you may be in the middle of right now, and just getting clear, the awareness and that comes along with that clarity. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
And I think on the upside too, the fun part is getting to see the miracles in real time,
yeah,
right? Things that I've been writing about and asking questions about and wondering about. And then suddenly one day I get an answer, right? A clear answer that only God could have come up with. And it's in those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can point back to the beginning of that thought process and all the little things, how God was weaving in people, conversations, activities. And suddenly one day the thing happens and it feels magical in the moment, but purposeful because you can see the whole journey in black and white.
yes. Gosh, yes, you get your why. You
Yes.
uncover your why.
Yep.
Gosh. And I love that. Let's talk. We've been talking deep about journaling and about therapy stuff and all of the different tools, right? But the fun, let's talk about the
Yes.
fun part. Let's talk
Yes.
about the miracles and the things that we can uncover. Love the process of you pulling out your journals at the end of each year and going back and looking, because that also can go, wow, look where I started. Look where I was. Oh my gosh, I had a hiccup in this month, but look what changed in the next month for me regarding X, Y, or Z. And it's a
Yeah.
real representation of the work and the commitment to doing our own work and to being that best version of ourselves that we can be, and doing the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Commitment,
Yeah.
commitment. Gosh, let's talk about your book just for a bit. Let's talk
Okay.
about, you said it was one of these things you've been doing for a long time. It's been on your heart for a long time. And I
Mhm.
know personally from our calls recently, you're like, it just felt like it just tumbled out over the course of a couple of weeks. Like it had been so arduous for so long. And then all of a sudden, like the fun part, your why, boom,
Yeah.
there it was, click. And it just tumbled right out of you.
Yes. That part feels when it happens, it's a little unbelievable, but it's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I thought initially that this rather than the Be Still community, the collective, and the podcast, none of that was on my radar when I first had this idea. It was always meant to be a book, a nonfiction book, that I thought I'll just write it, and someday, even if it's just a gift for my daughters, that will be enough.
Right.
But I really wanted it to matter. So I didn't know the first thing about writing a book. So I hired a book writing coach and I, went to book writing conferences and I put the time and effort into learning how it works, right? And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and nothing was clicking. And it just felt, I wrote a whole book proposal document and then I wrote three-quarters of a manuscript. I didn't feel connected to the words. It just sort of felt like I was putting words on paper and putting all this time and effort in, and it was getting nowhere.
Mhm.
And part of the way through that process is when I started to walk through my divorce. And
Mm.
so for anyone who has walked through a divorce, it's kind of all consuming.
Yeah.
So I shelved the book and I thought, if it's supposed to be something, maybe later. I went through my divorce and then the idea for the business came up. So I started working on that. And then the idea for the course came up this summer. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this digital course now that I have this blueprint, this framework that I keep walking people through. And at the end of that, as I was putting the finishing touches on that, I thought to myself, I really wish I had a way to showcase what this looks like in real life
Mhm.
because it can feel when you just tell someone, sit down, be quiet, sit with your journal. This is great. It feels like one more task, honestly.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't want it to feel like this is something you should do, you have to do, add it to your task list. It shouldn't feel like that. It should feel full of joy, peace, calm, all of those emotions that we're missing on a day to day basis. And so I thought, well,
Totally
maybe if I could come up with some sort of bonus module that I could, record at the end of this digital course. And I was journaling one morning and I'm like, well, I wonder, I mean, there are books out there like Who Moved My Cheese and The Dream Giver, and they're parable stories about a concept, right? And I thought, well, I
agree.
wonder if I could do something like that. And 2 days later, I had a full outline. And 3 weeks later, the book was done, like completely written. And it
That's
was just
crazy.
one chapter at a time. And the craziest piece is it's fiction. Never in a million years would I have thought to write a fiction story. I had so much fun writing it. I mean, it was actually just so full of joy. It did not feel like a chore.
Mhm.
And after I wrote it, it was towards the latter part of October. And I thought, well, wonder if I can publish this by Thanksgiving. And people were like, "You're nuts. There's no way." Right?
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
So,
There's a lot.
yeah, I just kept walking forward one little step at a time and God kept putting people and conversations in my path.
Yep.
And it's looking like it'll be like fully launched by next week. And it's only December 12th.
That's amazing.
It's
That's
crazy.
amazing. Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. It's that redirection. My
Mhm.
older daughter talks about this all the time, and she's gotten so many of her whys by being still, by intentionally being still and
Yep.
hearing what that is. And she always says God's redirection is his protection.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So
so good.
that redirection that you have from that point of, this is what I think it looks like. This is what I really want to do. This is where my brain is going. This is my idea for it. And this is X, Y, and Z. Now we're going to go back to the density of the fact that we have to have a goal. We have to have a purposely thought out kind of situation to our what, kind of get it out of us, and letting God do the how we talked about earlier. But I think that there's a real big piece for me when I hear you say that it started out as this and it went completely down a different road that you had
Yes.
expected, and how beautifully it happened when you listened and when you just took the time to be aware of the information that was already inside of you, but just hearing it differently, peeling back the top, and then having those experiences along the way, knowing that the timing is it's God's timing. And
And
when it
it's always
happens,
perfect. Yes.
yeah, it
Yes, and
happens.
when he's ready, when it's go time, it happens really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Love it.
there was disappointment because I thought, "Well, gosh, I put all that time and effort into that other book, and now it's never gonna see the light of day? How sad." But when I finally let it go, that idea that I was supposed to write a book about that, the surrender, when I said, "Okay, God, maybe I'm not supposed to write this." And I was having a conversation with him in my journal one day as I was in the middle of writing this other fictional story. And I said to him, "I can't believe how much fun this is. I never would have thought to write fiction. I haven't written fiction since I wrote a story about a leprechaun in the 5th grade. Like that, that would never have crossed my mind,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah.
And I just so clearly heard, "This was the book I always meant for you to write." And I'm
Wow.
like, I couldn't have heard that 5 years ago, even if I had been listening intently, right?
Yeah.
So it's about that, the path, the steps, God's direction, right? God's in the how. All I had to say was someday I want to write a book and I want to give it to my kids.
Mhm.
And then I had to wait on his perfect timing and follow the steps to all of the other things that didn't seem like they had anything to do with writing along the way.
Yeah. Golly. But your experience along the way, I think that's a valuable thing that we can look back and, we don't have regret that we did the book writing conferences
Right.
and had the coaches and the things. That's almost like that's your preparation.
Yes.
That's your drive. That's your ambition. And that's the stuff that's keeping you um, kind of going with it. But like when we receive that, oh gosh, I'm froze up right now. When we receive that go time, when we receive it, that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
When we receive that go time, we've been prepped and we have been prepared for it. I think that's the bigger picture. And, you know, 5 years ago, like you said, you wouldn't have been able to receive it. You
Nope.
couldn't receive it then. But
Nope.
look at what the work along the way has done for you to be able to receive the most appropriate and most perfect situation for you that was in you, but wasn't of you, if that makes any sense.
Yep. That makes complete sense. Yeah. So it's been a really fun process.
Yeah, I love that. Tell
Yeah.
people how they can connect with you. On the
Sure.
Be Still Collective, on the podcast, on
Yep.
one-on-one coaching. Give us a little bit more feedback about how to get in touch with you for all the wonderful offerings that you have for people, specifically
Thank you.
and empowering individuals in that way.
Yes. Yes. I love working with women. I will say that. I just have, I mean, obviously, because I am one, but I feel like just being in that midlife place where you're like, am I doing it wrong?
Mhm.
Am I doing it right? We have so many influences externally, social media, friend groups, churches, whatever that looks like. And to just be able to come to a space where you can wholeheartedly be yourself, that was my intent. So, everybody can find me. Most of my stuff lives on my website, which is bestillwithbobbi.com. That's Bobby with an I.
Mhm.
I have the
BOBBI.
podcast, BOBBI, yes. I have the podcast, and you can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Be Still with Bobby. And the community is also on my website, the Be Still Collective, and that's an ongoing monthly membership. But we have calls once a week, as you mentioned, every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Central. I have toyed with opening up other community slots. It'll just depend on how it rolls out and if people need, an evening or a weekend or something like that if they have more time.
Yeah.
And my course will be out soon. And the book is called She Got Still, a modern day story of becoming.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited about the book's release.
Well, when this episode releases, that book is live, and everybody, let's go. Get on Amazon, order that bad boy up because it's a good one. And it's
Thank
all
you.
of the things. I mean, when it comes from your heart and it really comes through you in that really beautiful way that you've explained, I mean, how can it not be? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
How can it not be?
that's my
Gosh.
hope.
Yes. Oh, gosh, I love talking all these things with you, Bobby. I love
Mm,
this deep, reflective conversation we've had today, and I love our Tuesday mornings. Love the Be Still Collective and being a part of that group with you. So thank you for holding
thank you,
that space.
Dawn. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.
Oh, absolutely. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a great weekend with your girls, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to see you again on next Tuesday.
All right, sounds good. You too.
Bye, Bobby.
Bye.